So let's talk about the agent client protocol. What is agent client protocol? So let's say I have an IDE and I would like to somehow integrate an large language model and do agentic programming. How can I do it? Basically, there are two main options. One is that I can just use one of the available APIs and create an agentic loop, but I need to implement all of the usual stuff like the skill handling or the tool handling or just creating smart system prompts for agentic programming. Or I can just reuse Cloud Code or Gemini CLI or Copilot if it's possible. If I can integrate it somehow, I can try to somehow parse the standard input and output, but it's really not an easy way. It's a UI for the console. So if I'm lucky enough, there is an SDK, and for Cloud Code, for example, there is an SDK for Python and one for Node.js, but it's Cloud Code specific. The agent client protocol is a standard how to connect the IDE or any user of the LLMs with the LLMs itself or some application which already implements the skills, the tasks and everything. If we check here, we see that lots of agents like Gemini CLI, OpenCode already supports agent client protocol and a few IDE. There are plugins for IntelliJ, Z obviously supports it, and yeah, these are the clients which supports to use the agents. So the protocol itself is quite simple. It's just an RPC, and I think the main stuff is here. So basically, we are just sending a prompt. It can be text or image, and we are just receiving dozens of updates while the LM is working. That's all. So let's try it out. I created a small application which just starts uh, some application in ACP mode, which means that the standard input and output is redirected. So this ACPP, it's an ACP proxy, which means that this one is converted to a prompt RPC call via the standard input of this newly started application, and it will print out all of the responses. But let's save the outputs and let's check what's happening. So this is just starting the new subprocess, and these are all the messages, basically these updates, and most of them are just text updates, right? Chunk by chunk, because it supports the streaming. There are a few other ones like this one. This is a tool call, and for every single tool call, we may have multiple update. One is just the beginning. After that, if it updated with the content and all of the details, and that's all. And if we convert all of these to text because we parse it, then we see that okay, the response was just this one using some tools, and we can use it with anything, not just Copilot, but Gemini CLI has ACP mode, OpenCode has an ACP mode, so it's pretty easy to create something with just starting ready to use ACP implementations. The only problem is that it's kind of a framework and the main messages are well defined and all of them are the same. But if we check the beginning of the OpenCode, for example, then here it returns with available commands. which is very nice. Some of the ACP does it, but for example, the previous one, Copilot, didn't implement this one. The other problem is that it can be extended to add any kind of metadata, but usually they don't add metadata. So for example, if you are interested about the used input and output tokens with an agentic loop, you have the information. With ACP, it really depends. So that's the second problem. The third problem is that actually not everybody is implementing ACP, but everybody except Cloud Code. So Cloud Code has the SD key, not anything like ACP. So the team behind the Z editor created a proxy to actually use it. So and yeah, it also displays all the available commands, including the skills, which is actually pretty handy. Some tokens and the context, so this can be also processed and displayed like the previous one, but still don't have the token information, which is, I think, very crucial. So personally, I use a modified version of ACCP, of the Cloud Code ACP gateway, because it uses the Cloud Code SDK, which actually can access the token information. So and it's possible to extend the ACP messages because there is a vendor specific, very generic metadata, but still it's a limitation. It's very hard to create a more serious application with ACP. But other than that, I think it's a pretty easy way to integrate any kind of agents uh, with your application. And see you next time.